Good morning, good afternoon, all. We're just going to wait a minute or two and then we will get started. Okay, we'll make a start. So hello and welcome to our webinar. Thank you very much for your time today. We really appreciate you taking time out of your day. I'm going to start with some introductions. So I'll go first. I'm Alex, the co-founder of Spendkey. Akshay and I used to work together at a leading strategic consulting firm on the buy side. 4 years ago, we were sat in a canteen and we identified a gap in the market and decided to jump from the buy side to the sell side, and we co-founded Spendkey. And through Spendkey, we met Nick. So Akshay, if you'd like to do a quick intro, and then Nick.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Akshay Upadhyay. As Alex said, I am one of the co-founders. I've spent 28 years in the industry, and we have Alex and I, and the other co-founders together with 80 years of experience. We have poured all our intellectual capital into Spendkey. Over to you, Nick.
Yeah, thanks, Akshay. So, welcome everyone. It's really great to have you all here today. I'm Nicholas Giles. I've spent, sounds too many years now, but 28 years in the IT industry, working for predominantly large financial software vendors, I've seen so much change in terms of the capability and the way that actually we can give companies the option to really give true insight and deliver true insights to their employees and effectively, ultimately to their end customers in terms of value. So, yeah, really looking forward to talking to you today.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Akshay. So we'll be sharing all of our hard-earned IP today. We're going to be running for around an hour. Please let us know if you have any questions, pop them in the chat. Feel free to get your notepads out and start writing notes. However, this will be recorded and we'll let you know how to access the recording towards the end. The goal of this session is to teach you a blueprint to gain control of spend and prevent leakage. We're going to be sharing frameworks that you can put into practice yourself today. Then, and only if you're interested and we have time at the end, we'll show you how our platforms can help you achieve these results even faster. So, are we okay to start? Great. So, inflation, soaring costs, the pandemic, the global supply shortages, the energy crisis, the war in Ukraine. It's a difficult landscape, and with all of these headwinds, profitable growth is more important than ever. As a former procurement consultant, whenever a business case was written and submitted to board, we always started with gathering the facts from spend data. Often, business executives would bring in consultants to make spend opportunities visible. Because at the moment, current solutions are causing a lack of visibility, and that's impacting revenue leakage, it's impacting sourcing and cost optimization, impacting procurement risk. impacting the supply chain, impacting merger effectiveness. So today we'll be talking around how we can increase that visibility to effectively increase your control and drive efficiency. And Nick, you're going to be talking on your side.
Yeah, really just looking at one of the most time-consuming and manual parts of finance, and in terms of sort of cost and spend to a business, and that's around the accounts payable process. So yeah, really looking to kind of provide you with not just the overall kind of umbrella of strategy and insights, but then more kind of talking about the practical as to how we can actually start looking to actually solve and deliver real kind of benefits and returns.
And, you know, why is this a big deal? There's a few stats I'm presenting now. If you get this right, the rewards are huge. You know, third-party spend is 70% of companies' outgoings on average. And if you reduce by 10%, you can have a 32% on average. So, you know, you get it right. If you want profitable growth, you have to be managing third-party spend. So, diving in, before you dive into your journey of profitable growth, it's a bit like jumping into the swimming pool. You want to know how deep it is. You wouldn't dive off a cliff without knowing if there are any rocks at the bottom of the ocean. So why start trying to drive customer value when you don't know what's behind the numbers? The point is, great decisions start with absolute clarity. Any blind spots will hinder your control, and this will lead to invisible strains on your business and unprofitable growth. So you need to understand what's behind the numbers first, and that's where we're going to start today. In how do we achieve that understanding? If you run analytics on poor data, then garbage in equals garbage out. If there are any chefs in the house, you know, if you're cooking as you want to start with preparing, cleaning, chopping up, slicing and dicing all your vegetables. Really, this is the first part of the process with the data on the left-hand side. And the second part is adding the stock, reducing that down to extract the flavor and those insights. So think of it a bit like, you know, cooking a good stew and extracting flavor. In real terms, we've got to create a master file. We've got to set baseline currencies and translate any languages. So if you're a global company operating with multiple languages, multiple currencies, let's get everything into one place. Let's clean it up and let's normalize those suppliers, remove any typos, remove any non-identifying text, research parent-child relationships. You have a lot of fragmented suppliers out there. You know, a good example is your audit firms. So you have your EY Inc. and EY UK and EY Limited and EY SA, etc. So let's get everything cleaned up so we can identify EY as EY and not 15 entities. Then we want to transform and enrich your data. This is enabling you to understand exactly what was bought. So we recommend once you've got everything into one place, normalized, cleaned up, then you want to research those transactions. Research those transactions and use secondary data. And this is when the magic happens. You know, research the product descriptions, look at the company's website, look at Google, look at LinkedIn, look at Companies House. You want to be able to get as much information on that particular product or service so that you're able to understand what's going on behind these numbers. A consolidated global view is impossible without clean and contextualized information. So we add this context, we create a spend taxonomy down to a sensible level, and you want this taxonomy to be aligned to the supply base. And where humans fail in existing ERP systems, a good example is you may see a PO classified as IT hardware. Problem with classifying something as IT hardware is it's not very well aligned to the market. If I'm buying a specialist piece of network hardware, I'm unlikely to use the same supply base as where I buy a mouse. So effectively, having it loosely categorized is not much use to drive any strategic insight. Then another issue with ERPs and humans is errors. So they might not bother to classify. So you'll have ledger items that are unknown or incorrectly classified. So, going back to somebody can purchase an iPhone and classify it as marketing spend. It's not marketing. It's a piece of tech. It's telco, mobile hardware, and it's often leased. So classifying it as marketing is not going to help. Absolutely, that might be who's bought it, and that's where the analytics can come in to create those different views. So stage 4 is creating those views, those dashboards for sourcing and cost optimization, those dashboards for identifying procurement risk, dashboards for working capital, dashboards for weighted average payment terms, dashboards for identifying leakage, identifying supply chain, dashboards for impacting ESG and impacting merger effectiveness. It's all about bringing to life that new, clean, contextualized data. And we're going to talk through a couple of examples of this to bring it to life for you today. So I'll hand over to Akshay now briefly to talk through one or two examples.
Yeah, thank you, Alex. And you talked about, cleaning this data, using it for procurement and a lot of other, business areas. So 2 examples I would like to highlight here. And these are real life examples from my experience. Working for a large European bank, they had a new CIO who took charge and wanted to drive some IT strategy. And he went back to his team and said, can I get a visibility of where we are spending money on? And all he got was a very high level view, did not give him enough ammunition to drive his strategy. So, we ran spend analytics and we went deeper. And once we had, followed the step that Alex talked about in terms of transforming the data, enriching it, categorizing it, some insights that the bank never had visibility of before started emerging out. And the CIO was shocked to see there were 5 different CRM platforms being used by the bank in different areas. Now, as a bank, yes, you have different businesses to run, but you always want a 360-degree view of your customer. So running 5 different CRM platforms doesn't help. And why they did not have the visibility is simply because people had hidden some of this spend under the carpet as, marketing expenses. So rather than classifying one of the CRM tools as a technology cost for CRM or a business software, they categorize it as a marketing expense. And the CIO never realized it, because whenever he ran reports or whenever he asked people to run reports, all he got to see is only that CRM, which was classified as a technology expense, coming out in the report. So the moment you go through this transformation process, you can actually reveal a lot of hidden, data coming to surface, because yes, the software might be used by marketing, the software might be used by some other parts of the business, but at the end of the day, it's software. And the CIO has the responsibility to make sure that he or she is driving the right strategy, developing a buy, sell, hold strategy in terms of technology. And once you have that clarity, for this specific customer, they decided that they wanted to retire most of the CRM platforms, and that was a clear mandate from the CIO. And that's how they drive strategy. That's one example. The other example, without taking too much time, is in the same bank. We went through a series of spend data, and we realized with one particular supplier there was a lot of legacy application spend. And when we started investigating, nobody had a clue of what that spend was. And when I mean nobody had a clue, means nobody knew what that system or that software is being used for. Finally, we went back to trace it to who was approving the invoice, and we nailed it down to a person. And when we asked the person, why are you approving these invoices? Oh, because this was an orphan, nobody owned it, so it ended up in my lap, and I don't know what the software is used for. I didn't want to take any risk in terms of stopping the invoice payment for the supplier, so I've been approving it for a number of years. And I said, did you really go back and do an investigation of who is using it? And he said, no. And we did a deep dive. And just by doing a deep dive with all the spend analytics insights that we had, we realized that this software was not being used in the bank for a number of years, but the bank kept paying the supplier free money actually, and that money was not small. It was equating to a few £1,000,000 per annum. And you see, just by bringing that clarity, by bringing that data into visual dashboard, you can actually start gaining monetary benefits by driving your strategy and putting money in the right bucket and stopping a few things that you don't need to do. So with those examples, I'll pass it on back to Alex. Over to you, Alex.
Thanks, Akshay. Yeah, so stage one, visibility, and then really it's about how do we drive control and efficiency. So we recommend creating a spend governance framework, and effectively that analysis that initially is done will dictate really what that framework should look like. So and alongside your appetite for risk. So you may choose to set out a process for low value, low risk spend. Low value for you, maybe 5K, maybe 50K, maybe 100K. For the next client, it could be different. So we're really looking at the numbers to say, right, well, what's the analysis told us? And what frameworks and governance should we put in place for particular segments of spend? Then, of course, it's making sure that in this example there, you see the high risk or high value follows a governance process, or the low value, low risk follows a governance process. So now you're starting to put those controls in place. And I'll just add a bit more detail to that. If we take it a step further, this is going into a bit more detail around, well, what does a low value, low risk process look like? So we've established here from this particular purchase that it's low value. So let's say, for argument's sake, it's under 50K in this organization, and it's low risk. So we've asked a series of risk questions around legal risk, around customer service risk, reputational risk, and we've decided that it's low. Again, this is could be a manual process where you can create forms to do this. Then we're going to decide, is there an existing supplier in place, an existing contract? So, this is about avoiding that leakage. We're going to push the purchase orders towards suppliers where we have an existing agreement in place that they are managed. If, for example, we don't have an agreement in place, then it's about how do we create the right healthy amount of competitive tension. So that isn't just allowing the business to go and spend money as they feel free. It's about obtaining 3 quotes in this example. And this was the right amount of friction, if you like, for this particular customer. And if you're smart about what you mean by healthy competitive tension, this doesn't have to slow things down. Healthy competitive tension can be 3 short phone calls to get your requirements over the phone and get quotes back. It doesn't have to be a 6-month process. And you can do this right. you will immediately see a reduction in the number of transactions, and you will immediately see a reduction in the number of suppliers, because there is a process that has to follow. No process, people go off and spend what they like. A process, people, they'll think twice about spending it, and it wasn't that urgent, so I won't go ahead with it, and they can see that there's a governance process, and so on. You can take this a step further once you've got this process in, particularly with systems. You can start to add demand challenge. In the economic times ahead, this is going to be a huge lever where we're going to have to be challenging spend. We can see up to 20% reduction by simply adding in this governance framework and demand challenging to drive that efficiency. The benefits of this are huge. So reducing time to market. So the model there is a centralized model, and the low value, low risk one, which I showed, had pushed out that centralized process to the localized buyers. So it's enabling the business to go on and buy in a controlled manner. So reducing time to market, reducing any bottlenecks. We're pushing spend towards a controlled environment with contracts, negotiated rates, and reducing that leakage. Freeing up central finance resource, less transactions, less suppliers, improving overall compliance, reducing risk, and maximising the return on investment for every pound that's spent. I'll pause for a second. I think Akshay is going to just talk around a quick example of this in practice.
Yeah, so thank you, Alex, once more time. And, Alex was talking about the governance and the demand challenge. And again, another financial institution where we just set up a war room. And by setting up a war room, we were reviewing each and every spend that was coming in. Obviously, this is something that we had to do over and above the normal governance process. And once we started analyzing and scrutinizing every spend, we actually delivered 20 million pounds of saving just in that particular year. These were all low-hanging fruits, because what we were doing is doing exactly what Alex said, is demand challenge, talking to three suppliers, getting competitive quotes. In some cases, do you really need this? If you need this, can you go and justify this in front of the CIO, because this was a technology spend? And at many times when you go and say, okay, this is being now under scrutiny, you need to go and make a small presentation for 5 minutes to go and justify it to the CIO. Nobody wants to bell the cat. Nobody wants to go and have that difficult conversation. And a lot of time, spend that is not actually needed, people will just not bother. And, with all these small initiatives, you could actually, the client saved 20 million in 12 months, and that's a significant amount of saving. And, 20 million saving is adding, like Alex said at the beginning of the slide, significant value to the EBITDA of the bank. So these are real life examples that we are talking about, and you can see how, you can deliver tangible benefits to your business. Over to you, Nick.
Nick, you may be on mute if you're speaking.
Thank you. There you go. I'll start again. Thanks, Akshay and Alex, for pointing that out. Good to know that you were listening, so it didn't go on for too long. So as you've seen from the earlier presentation, there's a real opportunity to modernise finance, to modernise the way that your teams work, and to modernise the ability to have true visibility for your spend and to really optimize that spend. The benefits are in some ways very obvious. By doing this, you can really free up your finance team's time and effectively your talent pool to work on higher value initiatives. You can obviously cut out inefficiencies, and you can really look to scale your financial operations and further kind of reduce error and risk within your organization. One of the other keys as well is to look at the ability now you're using current technology to actually help automate functions within your finance organization to actually help control spend. And that's what we're going to talk about now. So let me just provide you with some background on the challenges facing finance teams today. The role of finance has really broadened out over the past decade. It's not new to anyone, but beyond the core responsibilities of accounting and bookkeeping, financial reporting, analysis, closing books, finance leaders like yourselves are really having to play an ever more prominent role in company-wide strategy. So that might be activities like mergers and acquisitions, M&A, globalization, going into new markets, going into new regions, or providing new services connected to your organization or through those acquisitions that you're making, and many, many other initiatives. Financial leaders have also become prominent as the voice of the company in terms of investor relations and in communications to the board as well. So it's fair to say that the role of finance has really broadened and become far more strategic than in the past. But one of the real problems facing finance is that actually the back-end processes are still very, very manual, which take a lot of effort to get done. In fact, the effort required now might actually in some ways be actually higher than actually in the past. When you think about the demands on compliance and control, sanctions screening, the constant potential risk that you have with suppliers and bad actors getting in, and potentially through loss and fraud. There's in some ways actually there's more demands on these manual processes, and these manual processes are taking longer. So what can you do about it? If you look at accounts payable through the IOFM, the Institute of Finance and Management, it's the #1 most manual and time-consuming function in the finance department and across finance teams. And that mountain of manual process stands in the way of finance modernising, automating, and effectively getting to our higher standard of enabling more strategic business and process and higher value tasks to be completed. So when we look at the payables processes today, typically you can sum them up in 4 words: inefficient, chaotic, manual, and risky. So let's just talk about some of these. In terms of onboarding your suppliers, typically today it's done very, very manually through email, through phone conversations, or sometimes even in person. But typically this process, with all these manual processes, there's firstly very little validation, and certainly with telephone conversations, there's no real way to record those in case they need to be referred to in future audits or compliance checks. Lots of, when you look at the way that invoices are being processed, and again, how errors with invoices are being resolved. Lots of this process is involved with paper and manual invoices having to be rekeyed into ERP systems or multiple different systems. And then time is typically, a lot of time is taken chasing down approvals internally and making sure that the right checks and balances are done back to those suppliers as well, with more phone calls and more emails. So there has to be a better way of doing business. And then when you look at the payment side of the AP process, so when you've actually finally got your invoices, you've got those approvals, you know that they're ready to be paid. You might be dealing with suppliers who prefer paper checks or expensive wires, which adds more paperwork and manual effort. And increasingly, as your supplier base will become global your payment processes will be becoming more complex. So actually having to ensure that the right tax information for your suppliers in whatever location and region that they're based in is being collected and presented correctly. A lot of time is also spent on that manual supply communication, that back and forth. Typically, finance teams receive, and sometimes they can receive 20 to 30% of their day just answering suppliers who are chasing updates on the status of an invoice or status of a payment. And again, this sort of time, needs to be brought back to finance and given back to finance through digital innovation. What we see is what we talk to customers about on a daily basis is a need to really provide four core deliverable pieces of value to a modern finance organization. Scalability, what you don't want is to be looking at digital tools and applications that might be able to fix a problem, a particular pain point right now in your organization's life cycle and in its journey to growth. But you actually want applications and tools that can actually grow with you and be with you for the long term, so that you're not always going through implementations and always going through new tools and adopting new ways of working. And secondly, going back to lots of those manual processes that we've been talking about, you really want to look at how you can become more efficient. Efficiency is all about improving the productivity of your finance function through automation, so that you can actually allocate more resources to those higher value add activities that you as finance leaders ultimately are under pressure to actually provide. A platform like Tipalti can enable you to eliminate 80% of the workload and time spent managing your payables process. So an invoice can come in, a supplier, for example, can be onboarded with just simply a single button click from one of your finance team. An invoice can come in and actually automatically go through recognition, digitization into your accounting package, approvals being sent out internally to the correct people through the correct processes and workflows that you have, all the way through to that payment, just for review and then approval, and then having that global payment be made for you. So the ability to really provide complete end-to-end automation is available here and today. We're talking a lot today about controls and about compliance and how we can help you reduce your exposure to loss or fraud or leakage in your organization. And so it's really key to also look at applications like Tipalti, like our approval, our PO approval module as well, that effectively enable you to really put in that level of control, enable you to actually have that level of workflow through your approvals, so that it gives you that ability to have compliance and have control. But also, if you need to potentially move an invoice outside of that process because it's urgent, actually still have that ability to actually process that and record it and have the relevant approvals recorded for any audit processes as well. And finally, around visibility, it's really key. There are lots of tools out there which can help you when it comes to viewing information, and I think Spendkey is a fantastic application in terms of giving you insight and enabling you as finance leaders to actually identify where you can really focus your time on low-hanging fruit and making huge benefits and reductions in loss and leakage for your organization. But another way as well that you can really look at visibility and really improve your ability as a finance team to, like, for example, accelerate your close is actually by improving the reduction in errors throughout the actual AP process, and by, for example, enabling suppliers to actually onboard themselves and keep their payment information and their supplier information up to date, rather than putting that onus on your finance team, by having an application that enables you to automate the posting of invoices, to correct GL codes, and posting of the approvals and workflows automatically as well. All these functions can really help make sure that actually, when you are looking to close your books, that there are far less errors, there are far less items when you're doing your reconciliation and reporting. So I just wanted to give you some examples of how you can, how we help deliver real results across the entire AP process. Around efficiency, we have worked with an organisation called Hopin. It's a global digital events platform, a UK unicorn. There aren't too many of them, but a fantastic organisation who went through stratospheric growth during COVID, when hundreds of thousands of organisations had to make that sudden leap to being to having hybrid working, and people working from home and needing to communicate their workforce to their suppliers, their customers, and the like. So this organisation managed to automate their financial AP operation from end to end. They were also able to achieve VAT compliance as well through self-registration and onboarding feature that the Tipalti platform has. And they were also able to actually centralise their foreign exchange transactions to drive down FX spend, which was really important to them, because they were suddenly hit with this huge, massive growth spurt, and they wanted to ensure that every pound that was available for investment in terms of people and fostering growth for the organisation was actually spent in revenue generating and growth generating roles. If we look at control and compliance, Kazoo, which is a car sales platform, I don't know if anyone's used Kazoo, but it's a fantastic brand here in the UK. They wanted to achieve better spend control and to really support their growth. So they adopted Tipalti's PO system to actually automate the workflows and the approvals for those purchase orders, to actually replace kind of the emails and the untraceable phone calls with a digital process that didn't produce any friction to the business. And I think one thing which I probably haven't talked about enough is actually that digital tools are great, and but they're only actually great if users actually use the tools in the ways that they're designed and made to work. And so making sure that when you're going out to market and you're looking at tools to really help you enable better finance and better spend control through your organization, really make sure that you're looking at at the way that these tools can be adopted, and the ways that they can, the tools can actually help your users, and especially users outside of the finance function who might not always understand the benefits of following a process. So actually make sure that they actually, that those tools, are very user friendly and have ways of ensuring that customers and employees actually adopt and follow the process. Next, if we look at time to value, it's really important with the sudden changes in markets that we've seen and the sudden changes in the economy that we've experienced even recently from the start of this year, that if you're going to be adopting digital transformation platforms and tools, that actually you can see really fast time to value. You really don't have 9, 12, 18 months to implement the perfect end-to-end tool that will do everything and deliver everything. Markets will have moved on, the economy will have moved on. Customers nowadays are really looking for applications that can be deployed really quickly and provide value as soon as possible. For example, with Funbox, it's a financial services company. They implemented our global payments platform in 3 weeks, saving a month of time per finance employee across the organisation annually. We also enabled them to provide W-9 tax forms for their US partners, which also saved them 20 hours a month in terms of administration and producing those. So again, if your organisations that are looking to go into new markets, it's really key to look at what tools you can use to actually aid your finance team, with challenges like local tax and compliance. If we look at scalability as well, then we've been working recently with an organisation called FY, an online marketplace. They needed a digital platform to really enable their growth from a few hundred to many thousands of brands and artists that they support. So using Tipalti, the brands can basically now choose the payment method that suits them and currency, including PayPal, whilst actually appearing to never step out of the FY marketplace partner portal that's available to them. And for an online marketplace, their partners, their content producers and content suppliers are absolutely vital to the marketplace's survivability and performance going forwards. So, and but also being able to effectively provide those brands with the ability to have the funds when they want them in the currency and the format is something that really FY sees it sets them aside from other peers in their industry. So now we're just going to quickly talk about the challenge. So over to Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. So existing solutions are failing. Controlling spend, preventing leakage is possible without clean, contextualized information and efficient controls and processes. So the challenge is you can hire an army of resource, join the war on talent, and do all of this manually. You might get there in 6 to 12 months, depending on the complexity within your organisation. Or you can achieve all of this within 2 to 4 weeks with Spendkey and Tipalti. So we're nearing towards the end. We'd like to show you a quick overview of our products. Spendkey has 2 tiers of products. Spend AI, which transforms the data, provides the clean global feed that's continuously enhanced by the secondary resources. Product 1, that data can be pushed into the customer or partner's presentation layer. Or product 2, which is our Spend Clarity Cloud, where we present absolute transparency and enabling you to make those control and efficiency decisions to drive value. We're not going to do a full demo today in the interest of time, so please do reach out and book a demo after this call. We share our contact details at the end if you don't have them already. But this is just a quick snapshot of one of our dashboards. Everything you see here, whether it's a line item, a colour, a department, a supplier, a transaction, can be drilled down through you in our dynamic dashboard. So you can create customized views on the fly to really focus where the opportunity is. Designed to remove those blind spots, provide you with insights for building business cases, for procurement optimization, audit readiness, digital transformation, and so on. So please do, reach out and book a demo. I'd love to show you the tool and all its features in a bit more detail. I'll hand back to Nick.
Great. I'll just quickly get this to build. Sorry. Right. So, there we go. I didn't press anything now. Right. So, yeah. So, in terms of Tipalti, our platform, as I said, covers the complete AP kind of P2P process. So, many organisations are already using POs that we speak to, and so that's certainly optional and doesn't have. And if that's already been done and it's efficient, that's great. But our solution can effectively provide you with that PO management control, the requisition and creation of those POs. We give a really nice real-time view on budgeting to approvers as well, so they can really understand actually when they're going to approve that PO in real time, actually, the effect of that PO on budgets. The core platform, we provide that supplier management, so that ability to onboard a supplier just with one click. So taking away a huge amount of effort and time from your finance team. And then in terms of receiving those invoices once those suppliers are onboarded, the OCR, the digitization of those invoices, a managed services team, and then also a layer of AI and automation that actually takes that invoice and then automatically assigns that to the correct GL code, and also can automatically send it off to the correct approvals as well, given your processes. With all the PO matching as well, that sometimes has to happen in the real world as well, because as we all know, it'd be nice if when an invoice comes in, it perfectly matches a PO, but sometimes there are issues that have to be looked at. And then lastly, global payments. This is, I think, one of the strongest areas of our platform, and you may very well have a person or teams of people who spend potentially hours or even days making payments to your suppliers, and we can really reduce this down to a matter of minutes. Lots of customers don't believe us when they just see this slide, and they almost challenge us on it. So I would say to you, if managing, making your payments is a real pain for your organisation, please, ask us to show you how we can really make that better. As we said earlier, we effectively look to automate 80% of this entire process, really saving you huge amounts of time and giving you that time back to really do higher value tasks and bring more value back to your business. So on that, both organisations would like to offer you 2 free things today. So the first would be what we call the AP Health Check, which is a simple interview that one of our solution consultants will kind of take you through to help you, I guess, in inefficiencies across your AP, your accounts payable process. The output of that is effectively will be actionable insights on the measures that we identify to help you really have a plan on how to look to improve those processes and move forwards. The interview takes about an hour, and yeah, we'd be really, really happy to arrange that for you if you'd like. Alex.
Yeah, thank you, Nick. So we're offering a similar trial, a spend clarity health check. So we will take a small sample of your spend data, maybe 2 months worth, for example, and we will run it through our machine learning tool and present back to you all of our findings, so that you can start to get a feel for what's behind the numbers, and where you can implement controls for reducing leakage and optimizing costs. So you'll really is a chance to get some really useful insights at no cost. So yeah, please do reach out, and we'd be happy to kick off that trial with yourself. So we're drawing towards the end of our webinar now. We're going to just pause for a moment and open the floor, the virtual floor, for questions. So please do let us know if you have any questions in the chat. We will be sending you a email after this event, which will contain all of the webinar assets. So we have some giveaways. We have a low value, low risk guide that we talked around. We have this recording. We also have the slides. So you'll have all of that if you're at your fingertips if you haven't managed to take any notes today. Okay, so a question coming here from Russ. So how long does it take to set up? So time to value we've mentioned throughout this presentation. You know, our USP, if you like, is time to value. So I can speak here on behalf of Spendkey and Tipalti. You know, so we're up and running within 2 weeks, sometimes shorter. So everything we talked about, all of these manual process that can take 6 months or so to do, we're using technology to get this in place within 2 weeks. But it's a good question if you missed that in the presentation. One more on training. So from a Spendkey perspective, you know, we pride ourselves on this being a highly intuitive system. You know, there are some pretty good stats on usage of software. If it's badly built and requires training, right, you never use the tool. So yeah, training for us is 30 seconds. It's, have you got a mouse with the left and right mouse button? And if you have, then you just need to click, point and click, and you will go on a journey to discover what's behind those numbers. That's all that is required. And Nick, I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add to training on the Tipalti side.
Yeah, so in terms of Tipalti, yeah, we have training kind of baked in to our implementation as part of the process. I think the universal feedback that we get is that the platform is very much built for the users, and so I think, you know, a general rule of thumb is that typically most ERPs are built by ERP developers and aren't always the most user friendly in terms of how information can be sort of seen and worked with. But yeah, there's training provided. We're quite flexible. I was actually just looking as well at some of the other questions, and there was actually a question here: how quickly does the Tipalti solution take to implement? So, as Alex has said, yeah, typically we're sort of 2 to 4 weeks. We are slightly dependent on the reason for that range, I guess, is it depends on the ERP, depends on the size and complexity of your business. But you know, just like Spendkey, we're very quick, really generally, to put in and actually start, you know, start finance actually using and actually seeing your real benefits and seeing huge amounts of time coming back to them. I think as well, there was one question here: how many is the minimum number of invoices that Tipalti can work with? We process thousands of invoices a month. Can it scale? So yeah, we have thousands of customers globally using Tipalti, and we're very fortunate. We have around a 99% retention rate for our customers, and it's one of the key reasons for that is the scalability of the platform. So you know, we have organisations like Hopin who effectively adopted us when they were around sort of 10-15 million in terms of revenue, and they're still using us now when they're hundreds and hundreds of millions in terms of revenue. So absolutely, you know, the platform's really built to scale and continue to deliver value as you go on your journey. Alex, back to you.
Well, one final question here on, can I customize the dashboard? So absolutely. All of our customers have their own view of the world that is familiar to their operations. So we have standardized views out of the box. We have standardized spend taxonomies. We have United Nations codes. We have a hybrid where we might use a bit from everywhere to make the best view. But all of that's part of the onboarding process and is taken care of within those 2 weeks. So we iterate with customers. So where customers sign 3-year agreements, we will continuously improve dashboards as their operations changes too. So yeah, all very highly customizable. Great. So express interest today. Send an email to Nick or I in regards to the health check. We will talk you through the onboarding process for Spendkey. It's sharing of data via secure link, and then a half-hour call, and then you get access to the tool. We're happy to take any questions after the event. I think for us, I'd like to say thank you all for your time. It's been a pleasure to host today, and we are available for demos and any further questions. Nick and Akshay, anything else you'd like to add?
A big thank you from my side as well. You have been a fantastic audience. Thanks for your patience. Thank you for listening. And we look forward to hearing back soon from you.
Yeah, likewise. Yeah, thanks for giving us your time today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all. Hope you found that useful. We'll end the call right there. Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.